All right, good afternoon and welcome everyone once again to Employment Connections. For today, my name is Richard with the APH Connect Center. Our Employment Connections is achieving employment equity. When we put this webinar together, we're looking at some of the national resources and reputable organizations that do a lot with employment resources for job seekers, as well as for employers wanting to hire or hiring managers wanting to look into hiring and retaining people who are blind or low vision out there. And what better than having the organizations and representatives to this afternoon who are going to share with us some of what they're doing in this space and being able to interact with them. We will have two presentations, and after both our presenters speak, there will be plenty of time for Q&A. So we prefer that you put your questions in the Q&A box, which is in Zoom. And if that, as an alternative, you could also use the chat. Katie, Lori, and I will be fielding them. So pardon me. This afternoon, we've got our two presenters are Karma Marsha. She's a training and outreach coordinator for the National Research and Training Center on Blindness and Low Vision with Mississippi State. Karma, good afternoon. And then our second presentation will be Dr. Ariel Silverman, Director of Research with the American Foundation for the Blind. Again, both these organizations have excellent resources for both job seekers as well as for employers and hiring managers. Again, put your questions in the Q&A. Karma Marshall will be our first presenter. Karma, good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon, Richard. Thank you so much. I hope everybody can hear me all right. It's certainly a privilege to be here today with you all and certainly with Dr. Silverman to talk about employment. For those of you who do not know, the National Research and Training Center on Blindness and Low Vision is the only federally funded center focused on employment outcomes for people who are blind or have low vision. Over the past 20 years, they've produced about 70 peer-reviewed articles, and out of that, they've created resources and products and training and dissemination to help support employment for individuals who are blind or low vision. The mission of the NRTC is to enhance employment and independent living outcomes for individuals who are blind or have low vision through research, training, education, and dissemination. And so with that being said, just to clarify, we don't provide direct service to consumers, but we do deliver products and trainings and resources and technical assistance all across the country to agencies and individuals who are working to help individuals who are blind or low vision obtain or retain employment. So I did want to talk about a few of the tools that we've developed or resources, however you want to look at them, for employees and employers, job seekers, employees, and a couple of the things that we have, and certainly everything is accessible through our websites. And when I finish speaking, I'll try to remember to put that link in the chat. But one of, I think, the most helpful resources that we have specifically developed for job seekers is we have a downloadable PDF on our website that contains a list of over 20 resources for job seekers. And this is just a great tool to have all the resources in one place. And it can really be referenced at various points in the job search, early on, and then during employment, even if you're looking for information about acquiring accommodations or other services. So just to kind of make a note, a few of the links or resources that are listed on there, the very own APH Connect Center or Career Connect, we do have that included. And then we have a link that will take an individual directly to a listing of state VR agencies. So if you're not familiar of how to contact the VR agency in your state, you can follow that link. We also have links to National Industries for the Blind, so you can find information about affiliates that may be in your state, information and links to Hadley. And then we have direct links to many of the NRTC's own products that we created from our research. We have a fantastic transportation guide, which can help job seekers kind of navigate that process to create their own transportation plan and even a backup plan, as that's critical to being successful in employment. We also have a resource about preparing for a video interview. And obviously, we're on a virtual meeting today, and a lot of interviews these days are virtual. So this just provides a lot of information about how to prepare for that and how that's different than an in-person interview. Another resource we have for job seekers is advice for disclosing your vision impairment. And this is a fairly concise document. It is downloadable on our website, and it provides information and recommendations about disclosing your disability to employers. It talks a little bit about the benefits of disclosing, not disclosing, pros and cons. It also has a brief overview of an individual's protections that are covered under the ADA. Like I said, it's pretty concise. And in that document, there's also a link to a webinar that we produced called Who Needs to Know? And this is a fantastic webinar, and it consists of a panel of individuals who share their own personal insight and lived experience into disclosure in employment. And so it's a great kind of a segue to that document. And so in addition to that webinar, we have created a series of webinars designed to help individuals along their employment journey. We have a fantastic webinar about LinkedIn. Part of that, even though that's kind of caught fire, especially after COVID, it talks a little bit about LinkedIn and some of the accessibility issues that may be there, but also how to create your LinkedIn profile, and how to navigate what to include on there, a little bit of a section about disclosure. And then also we have other webinars about navigating VR. We have a great webinar about leveraging your disability in your job search and how it can be seen as, you can use it to create your profile as you navigate the world of looking for work. So certainly encourage everyone to look at our webinars. Our podcast, or a series of podcasts that actually highlight individuals who are blind or have low vision and their personal experience in the workplace. So it ranges a wide variety of different types of occupations and careers. So we're really proud of that, and people do a great job on those podcasts. They're relatively short, so it's just a great resource to have individuals kind of have that experience, hearing other people's lived experience through that employment process. A little more comprehensive program that we have that is on our website. You can access it through our learning management system, which is Canvas. And we know it's a free, all of our resources are free. It's located in our course catalog, and it's called Career Advantages for VIPs. And that's obviously stands for visually impaired persons. But it's a self-guided online program, and it's for job seekers. And it consists of 8 self-paced modules. And the program, we kind of say that it would probably be really beneficial for students who are maybe making that transition from high school or college or another training program into the workforce, or even an adult job seeker who might be looking to find or change employment. And so the way it works, again, it's 8 modules at your own pace. The first 4 modules are kind of about self-exploration, self-assessment. You do kind of a modified personality assessment, do a little career exploration. So it kind of helps that job seeker that may not really be sure, before they even start to look for work, what kind of work might be a good fit for them? What kind of work might they be interested in? And when they learn more about themselves, will they need additional education or what kind of training? So it kind of walks the job seeker through that. The next few models talk a lot about job accommodations, talking to employers about vision loss, and the job interview process. And the last module kind of pulls all that together, and it offers some activities to help you move from learning these new skills to actually increasing your job seeking efforts. So it's a fantastic program. Again, it's self-paced, it's not graded, but it pulls a lot of different ideas about looking for work together, including that important self-assessment piece. So that is on our website. We all know that, that jobs preparing for employment, the focus now is really working with that transition age group. So the NRTC has actually developed a free app called 4 to 24. And this came directly as a result of our research. And it talks about it kind of is an evolving process to help a youth build independence over time to prepare for successful employment and independent living. So the app, again, it's called 4 to 24, is for both parents and youth. And the youth, usually we target about age 16 up through 24. And the way it works is the app will send out new modules of information that are kind of like a short article about twice a month. Everyone can work at their own pace. There's no grades or deadlines. There's nothing to be turned in. And so the app waits until you finish one module in a category before it sends you another one. And each module has like a recommendation of a topic, like learning ways to organize your money or time to register to take the SAT or the ACT. And then it gives about 3 to 4 paragraphs about the topic, and it provides a list of suggested activities or small steps that the youth can take to learn more or to work on that skill or that goal. We also include in the app a list of online resources on that particular topic. So just to give you an idea of some of the topics that we cover topics such as travel skills, academics, technology, social skills, those soft skills that are so important, preparing for college. And again, this is just a great tool for parents and guardians and students. It can really drive some conversations, over the dinner table about getting ready for work, getting ready for college. We got a lot of feedback after that, that's professionals that may be working with these students. Maybe it's a TVI or a VR counselor wanted to be involved. So we do have a portal that allows the professional to have access to the modules, not what the student or parent is doing, but to see the content and understand how the app flows so that they can then build on that in whatever work they may be doing with that student to prepare them for, either secondary, post-secondary education or employment. So again, I saw it quickly in the chat. I saw the app is 4, the number 4 to 24. And it's available in both iPhone and Android. So a few resources that we offer that might be helpful to employers. The NRTC has developed what we're calling the Human Resources Guide for Working with Employees Experiencing Vision Loss. And this guide, the audience is generally HR staff who may be working with a current employee who is experiencing vision loss. And the goal would be to help that employee maintain employment. And if the HR staff has never really worked with an individual who might be experiencing vision loss, that they may not even be sure that the individual can maintain their job. So the guide provides an overview of both low-tech and high-tech accommodations, an overview of vocational rehabilitation and what some of those services might look like for job retention. And again, this guide is basically a resource to help an individual retain a valuable and productive employee who might be experiencing vision loss. So I'd encourage, if we have employers in the meeting, to take a look at that because it's really very helpful. A few other things that we feel like are really important to employers, and one of the things that we learned from our research was that due to the small incidence of disability related to blindness and low vision, many individuals who are sighted may never have interacted. So they may not really understand assistive technology and how someone with blindness or low vision can actually do the work task. So we created a series of short videos where employees who are blind or low vision describe and demonstrate the assistive technology that they use in their job. And so the videos include demonstrations, relatively short, of JAWS, OrCam, handheld magnifiers, and even someone using the Seeing AI app. And these videos are just a great way to demonstrate how work tasks can be performed using assistive technology. And certainly we feel like they can be helpful to employers that are just not familiar with the devices or AT. One thing that the NRTC feels really strongly about is we understand that not everyone wants to sit down and read a journal article that a researcher writes. So our website houses some plain language article summaries. And these are peer-reviewed plain language summaries that are PDF downloadable, downloadable PDFs that include the information about our research, but it kind of cuts through that jargon and those more complex concepts to explain our research findings in everyday language. And really, this is a great resource. I actually like to refer to them myself. And the summaries focus on our practical takeaways. So it's when we did the research, what are our practical takeaways? So that's what the plain language article summaries are for. And you can kind of browse through them easily on our website to look at topics that might be of interest to you, or to refer someone who you may be trying to provide a little bit of resource and information to. So those are some of the things that we feel like are our strong products. I will say that one of the responsibilities of our center is to provide technical assistance and training. And again, we don't provide direct services to consumers, but one of the things that we do is we provide training and workshops to service providers. So we can provide awareness training workshops. We can provide them to employers that might be designed to address that bias in hiring. Our research finds that just that knowledge of how individuals are blind or low vision can complete workplace tasks and positively impact that hiring manager's attitudes. So we can customize workshops based on the employer's request. So certainly encourage any employers out there, if you would like for us to do a workshop, we would love to do one. I'm doing one next week actually, for a national federal agency that is going to bring in HR managers from all across the country to a virtual meeting because they really want to learn more about blindness and low vision so that they can, do some recruiting and hiring and create a more inclusive environment within their agency. So that is one of the things that we do is those awareness training workshops. And then we also do some things for VR agencies. So we offer a Putting Your Best Foot Forward. That's a 2-day train the trainer workshop that prepares service providers to deliver a 40-hour curriculum in job search training skills to transition age youth. So once you go through the workshop, if you're a service provider, then you get access to this curriculum. It's literally fantastic, off the shelf. It contains activities that you can do with youth, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel if you're out there trying to support youth in their job preparation or post-secondary preparation. We also have an improving business development for vocational rehabilitation professionals. If you're familiar with VR, the overarching goal is employment. But a lot of the folks who work in VR come up through a human service background, and they may not be very comfortable with navigating, speaking to employers, and talking about job placement. So this is a training that we'll do for VR counselors or other VR staff to kind of increase their confidence in business development, looking at the employer kind of as that dual customer along with the consumer to try to find that good fit to make sure that they can do their job of making sure someone is placed into employment. So that's a really, really fast overview of some of the resources that we offer, training, technical assistance, those are the things. We're currently working on some projects right now that we're super excited about. So I will hand it back over to Richard, and I will try to look in the chat and see if I can provide some answers as we move along. Thank y'all so much for having me.
Karma, excellent presentation, a trove of resources. The 4to24 app is amazing. Ever since it was in pre-development, I was championing it, knowing it was going to do great things, and it is. So hats off to you and the entire team over there for putting that together, and all the other resources you've talked about. I would hate for any of this to be a best kept secret, and this is one of the reasons why we're putting out this webinar today, Achieving Employment Equity, to get this out there. And there are some good questions in the chat, some stuff that we put out about the 4to24 app. Thank you, Katie. And we'll field some more of those questions after our next presentation. And I think Laura and I have some questions as well. We're going to move on now to the American Foundation for the Blind. Dr. Ariel Silverman, Director of Research, is with us to share with us about their resources, and I'm really excited to hear about what they're doing. They've got some new initiatives and some things they've done. Ariel, good afternoon and welcome.
Thank you so much. So the American Foundation for the Blind is a national nonprofit organization that works to change the way that the world views blindness. We work to create a world of equal opportunity and expand possibilities for people who are blind or have low vision. And we do that through advocacy, through thought leadership, and through strategic partnerships. So a lot of what I'm going to be talking about is information and resources geared toward employers and toward others who are interested in helping us affect systems change. So instead of working with individual consumers or even just on the level of job seekers, we're interested in kind of changing the broader system that blind and low vision job seekers are embedded into. With the understanding that if we can identify what some of the barriers are that are contributing to the underemployment and unemployment of people who are blind or low vision, then we can develop targeted, sustainably effective solutions. So AFB was founded in 1921, so has had over 100 years history of providing services and information to people who are blind or have low vision. And our current goal areas include generating knowledge, developing partnerships, and changing the national narrative on blindness. So in my role as research director, I'm primarily going to be talking about some of the research activities that we do and some of the resources we put out. But I will briefly mention some of the other initiatives that AFB has been working on. AFB has launched a talent lab program that aims to train individuals who are going into computer science careers, training them to understand web accessibility so they can create accessible digital products. And AFB has currently, I think applications may still be open or they may have just closed because the new cycle is about to start of the internship program. Where college students, blind and sighted college students who are in computer science fields are trained in the principles of accessibility. AFB has also had an apprenticeship program that will be relaunched at some point in the next fiscal year that specifically recruits assistive technology users, people who are blind or have low vision, to train them to become usability specialists. So follow AFB for more information about those programs as they evolve. We also have been involved in a lot of advocacy work, and I can talk about how some of our research has directly influenced policy advocacy. So outside of the employment space, but during the COVID pandemic, we conducted a series of studies to look at among many other things, look at the accessibility of digital learning tools that children in K-12 education were required to use during the pandemic. And probably not a surprise to anybody here, we found that there was a pretty high prevalence of accessibility and usability challenges with those tools. And of course, educational tools, websites, and apps are covered under Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act. So some of our research was cited in the recently approved final rule that requires, under Title II of the ADA, explicitly requires websites and apps from state and local government entities to be accessible. And originally, when the rule was proposed, there were several exceptions related to education that would allow educational institutions to get off of that responsibility. But AFB, in coalition with many other organizations, submitted research-based recommendations, and because of that, the exceptions were removed. And now educational institutions are required to comply with Title II of the ADA when they make their websites and mobile apps. So that's just one example of a way in which AFB's research can directly influence policy. So in the employment domain, we conducted a study in 2021 called the Workplace Technology Study. And during that study, we surveyed 323 individuals who were currently or recently employed, who were blind or have low vision, and collected comprehensive data about various points in the hiring and employment process when they encountered barriers. And there was a focus on technology. So we found, for example, that about a third of individuals who were required to complete automated screenings during the job application process had accessibility issues with those screenings. Like, for example, having to take a test that would time out before their screen reader read them everything on the screen, or picture-based tests that they were unable to complete. We also learned that some individuals had difficulties around disclosure, not sure whether to disclose, were afraid to disclose, or experienced negative reactions when they disclosed blindness. And then during the onboarding process and the process of completing required workplace training, significant numbers of blind and low vision respondents reported they had accessibility issues. There were also a lot of reports of accessibility issues with workplace software, particularly video conferencing software, since this was during the pandemic, and many individuals were using video conferencing software frequently. And finally, when about half of the respondents reported that their workplace adopted new technology that was not fully accessible with their assistive tech, and amongst that group, 39% indicated that they did not receive timely or effective training from their employer to be able to use the new mainstream tech with their assistive tech. So all of these tech-related barriers, of course, create challenges that reduce productivity, reduce morale, and ultimately can interfere with blind and low vision people's ability to obtain and maintain employment. And if you think about these results were just from the individuals who were actually employed, there are many, many more individuals who never found employment or lost it because they were unable to overcome these accessibility challenges. So based on the results from the workplace technology study, we put together a toolkit resource, and the link will be shared in the chat, I think at the end of my presentation. This toolkit is divided into 4 sections: recruiting, hiring, onboarding, and employee retention. And each of them has actionable recommendations that employers and HR managers can follow to be fully inclusive toward employees who are blind or have low vision. So for example, in the recruiting section, we have a bunch of links and suggestions about places where employers can go to post job openings, where those openings will be seen by prospective applicants who are blind or have low vision. So recommendations of VR agencies, consumer groups, other kinds of job boards where people can recruit blind and low vision applicants. In the hiring section, we give advice about how to handle disclosure issues and how to be sure that your website, or your web-based or app-based job applications and screenings are fully accessible. Then in the onboarding section, we talk about ways to accommodate blind and low vision individuals with onboarding paperwork and how to handle the job accommodations process and how to put safeguards in place, like for example, centralizing accommodations, having a centralized comprehensive accommodations policy, and having accommodations come out of a centralized budget. So individual supervisors are not incentivized to avoid accommodating blind and low vision employees. And then finally, in the retention section, we talk about issues that might come up around adoption of new technology, training IT staff, information technology staff to understand the needs of blind and low vision employees, and advice for colleagues who might be sharing documents or giving presentations on how to make those materials accessible. So the toolkit resource includes a written toolkit that can be downloaded and printed, or it can be viewed page by page on the web. And it also includes a series of videos that highlight some of the key research findings in each of those sections. Lastly, I'll just mention a couple of research resources that will be coming out very soon. They're not out quite yet, but they will be out this summer. So like MSU, we also are going to be releasing a plain language summary series with plain language summaries of all of AFB's research studies that have been done in the last 5 years. So that will include studies that were conducted during the pandemic, the workplace technology study, and some of our newer barriers to digital inclusion research, where we have systematically documented the frequency of accessibility barriers that people face on the web, with mobile applications, and with kiosks. So those summaries will be coming out, and we will also be releasing a series of 5 fact sheets that summarize our research on specific topics across research studies. And there will be an employment fact sheet that will be coming out soon that you will be able to print, download, or share with employers, with other researchers, with individuals who might be interested in that work. The last thing I'll mention that I neglected to mention earlier when I was talking about some of our non-research activities is we also have a client solutions program for businesses that want to make their websites accessible or that want to have web accessibility audits to demonstrate the accessibility of their digital products and services. So that client solutions link is accessible on AFB's website from the digital inclusion subpage on afb.org. Thanks so much.
Ariel, thank you so much. Great information and some things I didn't know about as well. So thank you so much. One of the questions I have for both of you, can you guys hear me? Yes, okay, I'm
Yes.
unmuted. Is Karma or Ariel, you may have seen this question coming. If not, I apologize. Have either of your organizations explored or researched or beginning to research how artificial intelligence might interact with employment of blind persons and how that'll positively and or negatively impact the hiring process, the onboarding, the recruitment?
Oh, that's an excellent question. May I answer?
Sure, yes.
Yeah, so actually that is our current research project that we're engaging in right now. We have begun a literature review of research and policy literature related to AI in various domains, and one of those domains is employment. So we've been reading some of the literature about how AI-based candidate selection systems and AI in the workplace can impact people with disabilities. But we are also doing a series of interviews with experts in industry and policy fields to get their feedback on what they believe is coming down the pike with AI in all of these different areas, including employment. So we've been speaking with, and I think we're going to end up with about 30 people from some of the large tech companies, from government, from disability policy organizations, to get kind of all the perspectives on what AI can offer that's positive, that can increase employment opportunities, inclusion, and then of course some of the concerns about bias and discrimination and surveillance and all those things that come with AI. So we're actually, like, literally today, I did an interview today. So we're doing those interviews right now, and we should have some results coming out in the fall of 2024.
Fantastic, thank you. Karma, do you have anything to add?
Hey, no, that's exciting to hear that from AFB. The NRTC right now, we're in the fifth year of our grant cycle. So of course we're still working on the deliverables and the research that we promised to NIDLR 5 years ago. But I will say that we already are talking about new topics for our proposal coming up next year. We're certainly aware of, the buzz about AI, and so it certainly will probably be something that we'll talk about, but we don't have anything at the current time, no.
All right, thank you. Lori, do you have any questions?
Sure. I'm wondering if either of you would speak a little about the area of unemployment and people who are blind or low vision.
Yeah, I can try to talk a little bit about that. We've actually, some of our current research is about the labor force participation. And one of the things that we did as part of that was to interview folks and try to find out, why aren't you in the labor force? And, we've already written several articles about it. One of the things I think that we're seeing is that they're having some concerns about navigating services. And so we're developing some resources about navigating different services, whether it's VR or other services that might be helpful in that realm. Some of the things that I think we heard from the interviews was, there wasn't a lot of information being presented to individuals about self-employment or remote employment. And so I think people might have been, discouraged. It's not that they don't want to work. They may have just been discouraged. So I think we are looking at that, and then looking at the aspect of, maybe someone doesn't want to work full time. Maybe they want to work part time, and that's not being discussed with them. And so trying to probably develop some resources to make sure that individuals understand that there are options. There are different ways that work can look. Talking a little bit about if you wanted to receive some benefit counseling, or if you just wanted to work a few hours a week, or what does it look like to be self-employed or work remotely? What are the pros and cons of working remotely? So I think that we are looking at that labor force participation, and what are some of the underlying issues that we can address, and what kind of resources can we develop as a result of that.
Great. Do either of you have a particular audience that maybe you are having difficulty reaching out to? That I'm just curious, because I find a lot of times both of your programs are overlooked, and I'm wondering if you both have a, maybe a specific audience that you'd like to do outreach to.
So we would want to have a lot more outreach, and of course, by definition, this is going to be difficult, to employers who have no experience with blindness.
Mm-hmm.
And also to HR managers, like through SHRM,
Mm-hmm.
but we haven't quite figured out, we have some staff who are members of SHRM, but we haven't quite figured out the best way to get our research out to SHRM and have them publish it. So SHRM is one major audience, but then also just like all the small business employers that know nothing about blindness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that we would probably say the same thing as well, certainly. The other thing I think that we would talk about a little bit too is we're thinking about, trying to build capacity from the standpoint of the lack of service providers. Do we have enough orientation and mobility providers? Do we have enough, rehabilitation teachers? We have enough TVIs.
Yeah.
So, we're thinking about how can we get this information out about these careers, and then, just we see when we talk to agencies, and I'm sure most people on this call know that even if you can be informed about what may be available to help you navigate the world of work or adjustment or independent living, if you can't get the services, that's going to be a long road. So we're really concerned about building capacity. I know that's not directly related to employment, but it certainly is indirectly related.
Oh, it certainly is. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you have somebody that has a significant vision change rather quickly, and, if they have to wait 6 months for services, that's stopping potential career growth during that time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Great. Katie, do we have any questions?
We do. I'm not seeing any in the Q&A at the moment, but there's some asking if we plan to send an email out with links for a follow-up after the webinar, if that's something we plan to do.
We typically put a lot of the stuff in the chat. If you email us at connectcenter@aph.org, we can certainly gather some of these links for you.
All right. Also, somebody was asking, what are the podcasts called from the NRTC, and how can one find them?
Sure. I did put a link to our website in there, and then on the website they're called Employment Insights. I'll try to see if I can find a direct link and put it in there before we close out.
And are they in podcast players like Apple or Spotify? I think that was one of the follow-up. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So Employment Insights.
Mm-hmm. That's
okay.
Correct. Yeah.
All right. And then another question asking if you provide information or training on for job seekers or consumers on, using web-based platforms like LinkedIn or you know, professional networking sites for looking for employment?
We don't provide professional networking sites. Like I said, we do have a webinar about LinkedIn, mostly
Yes.
an overview on LinkedIn.
Yeah, there's quite a few resources out there. We've got a blog, and you have a
Mhm.
webinar, and so on and so forth. Great.
There's been a lot of interest in the app, the 4 to 24 app. So
Yes,
it's
and we put the
Great.
link to that, or the page where you can learn more about the app
Right.
in the
Fantastic.
chat. Yep. Lori, any last questions?
Hold on, let me just, I'm sorry, I was busy saving the chat, so I can.
And you're fine. And while you're doing that, Karma or Aria, are there anything else you want to share before Lori comes in with the last question or two? Anything else we haven't covered that you just thought of, or want to make sure people get a hold of?
One more thing that I didn't mention is that AFB maintains a database of statistics about blindness.
Yes.
And we just updated it for the first time in 3.5 years. So I'm really excited to share that. afb.org/stats will take you to the database, and we have statistics on demographics of Americans who are blind, have low vision, statistics on older adults, employment statistics, so employment population ratios, unemployment rates, things like that, comparing people who are blind or low vision with people without disabilities. We have also added some new data related to technology use, so rates of smartphone ownership, computer ownership, and internet access between people with and without vision disabilities, and poverty data. So check it out.
Yes. Katie, did you
And
see
we-
that last question? Oh,
I
sorry,
was
Lori.
just going to say, we have a last question here that somebody's
We
asked,
do.
saying that VR is not keeping up with the requirements from RSA. And do you have any comments on that?
Well, this is Karma. I'm not going to speak to it from the standpoint of research, but I will offer kind of my own opinion. I don't know how much you know about the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act that changed VR in 2014. So I do think, you know, that's been a big shift for the VR agencies that impacts the way that they provide services. So I don't know if we're seeing some of that on the tail end of that, and also COVID. I will say, and I go back to it almost every single time, I used to work for a separate agency that served people who are blind and low vision, and it's that capacity, it's that service provision capacity when it comes from VR, about being able to serve people and meet them where they are and when they need it. So, you know, I think that while that sounds like that's a VR issue, that's a bigger issue. And so I would like to see some funding to support development of those careers and build those service providers so that those services can be delivered. I don't know if that answered your question about that or not, but I will say what we see in our research, you can see it on our website. We have found that the states that have separate agencies for individuals who are blind or low vision, when it comes to VR, their outcomes are typically greater.
Yes.
More people come off of public assistance when they're served by separate blind agencies. So I'm certainly not knocking those combined agencies, but I would certainly say that we do see some differences there in how those results come about. So I'd be interested to continue to follow that and see about, you know, having a conversation at a higher level with, while there are some unique needs in the, you know, for people who are blind to low vision.
And that has been a trend, the service provision being better in states where there is a blindness specific agency versus a general agency. That's been the same trend for the past 20 years.
Correct.
So it's not something that's new. And that's why it really truly breaks my heart when I hear from people in states that have switched into a generic agency over the
Right.
past couple of years.
Right.
And the other side to that coin, I think, is sometimes people get training, but they don't get the technology, so they can't keep the tech skills up. And so they may learn how to use a screen reader, but then they don't get the technology because they don't have the job, and it becomes a whole big cycle of
Mhm.
problems.
Yeah, it does.
Any last
Um,
questions, Laurie, Katie? Sorry.
Yep, we have a question that asked about the employment resources on the NRTC site. Is there, I know you put the link into the chat for the general site, but is there a specific page for the employer resources?
Yeah, I can put that in there.
Thank you.
And Lori, any last questions?
No, I don't have any additional questions.
All right. Well, Dr. Silverman and Karma Marshall, thank you so much for being a part of our Employment Connections Achieving Employment Equity. And everyone, thank you for attending.